Yeah, so the moral of the story is just that I guess that's not how you apply suppositories, but you live and you learn, right?
It's always good to know. Anyway,
The AI Shift podcast. Let's go.
Anyway, on this week's AI Shift podcast, we are going to talk about something new, which is good.
It's better than doing what we did last week. That'd be boring.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the same thing every single week, but just with different days of the year. Today's topic, you kind of touched on something last time, which is, everyone, technology's always been like diving forward, right? Investment, billion-dollar companies, go, 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 go. I know for me personally, I found the biggest win on this stuff is like improving my personal workflow. And you mentioned like businesses potentially should be starting to use this stuff more internally. They may be buying, access to these kind of SaaS platforms and things.
Yeah. I think that we're seeing, and I think the term you've used is gold rush. We're seeing the gold rush now of everybody trying to use AI to improve their main product, and to sort of get that out to market faster. I think they're missing a massive sort of win, and that's internal tooling. So like I've mentioned before, I'm working on a SaaS platform called ScopeBlock, but that actually came out of an internal tool that I needed for scoping my own projects and all that sort of stuff. And I've been able to improve that process. There's as a single sort of person company, my presence on social media in that is quite crucial. So like I've used AI to build something to interact with LinkedIn, so that because LinkedIn's algorithm's not great. It doesn't always show me the stuff that's actually relevant to what I'm interested in talking about. So I wrote something that went and used LinkedIn and then went, oh, here's the posts. And it made me more effective. So I can sit down of a morning or an evening with a coffee and just quickly rip through all the content that's relevant to what I want to see. And it's those sort of benefits, rather than just going out there and going, right, we're going to build this massive platform with AI and we're going to get rid of the team. How about looking at making tools that make your team better? They make their job easier, simpler, stuff that can help with maybe deployments or like log trackers and stuff like that that'll go in and read the error logs and all that sort of thing. Those sort of internal tools that are just like real quick wins. It's probably like an hour at most working with AI, and you've just like probably saved yourself hundreds of hours, if not thousands, over the course of a month or a year.
There's still a need for the knowledge, right? To be able to build it.
Yeah. So these are devs or technical people building these tools to use the tools. It's not making these tools to replace those people at this point.
Sure, but like what I mean is like the devs need to therefore have not just the technical skills to build like AI stuff, but the desire, the motivation, like what's in it for them, like it becomes, to play devil's advocate in the process, like I'm all for this, personal productivity game, but I see it with, organizations I work with and stuff, and they want all this stuff, but I think it's, even for developers, there's just a lack of desire.
Maybe it's my personal mindset then, because like even as a should we coin a new phrase of a manual developer, where I actually wrote the code by hand, in those full-time employments, I would often write code that automated stuff, or I would use services that automated things. And I might spend, I don't know, a day or two writing some sort of automation, which made my job easier in the future. Like I know that we had things like T4 templates and all that sort of stuff, but I wrote some code at one place that did that sort of thing. It did templating. You just built your POCOs and it went and it built everything very specifically to how that company wanted it, and it would wire up all of the business layer and the logic and all that sort of stuff, which yes, you can just use AI out of the box to do now, but why keep doing those sort of things and use your token limits when you could have your token limits used once and build something to repeat it. It just makes that process easier, because you've got that adage of do it once, do it manually, do it twice, do it manually, do it 3 times, automate it.
Yeah, I guess it's then down to like who automates the more of the social contract then, right? Like I agree wholeheartedly that companies should be building up more basically internal IP, right? That's what that then becomes. If you can create tools, skills, agents, etc., then you're adding value into an operation layer of the business, be it engineering or otherwise. But there is there's a knowledge gap within even developers today, but also I just think there's a lacking of desire to want to. In theory, the perception is I'm automating away my job.
Yeah, I get that. There's a lot of fear around the AI stuff as well. So I recently demoed AI to a group of people. I demoed Claude, and there was a few people in the audience that were originally very negative about it and didn't really want to know about it, and would argue with me when I talked to them about these AI things. Once they actually saw what it was doing, they really got behind it, and I think I actually created a few monsters in that group of people, because I got inundated with look what I've just built and things like that. But yeah, job safety is a big thing, but I would always say that job safety is a fallacy. It doesn't exist, because when I became a contractor, people said, "Oh, why have you done that and moved from full-time employment? Because isn't it risky?" Well, any company could get rid of you tomorrow or today or 5 minutes ago. Regardless, they just need a valid reason or excuse to get rid of you, whether you're a full-time employee or whether you're a contractor. It makes no difference. Like in the UK, there's currently a law that says that you have no statutory rights to anything for 2 years. So they don't even have to give a reason within those 2 years to get rid of you. They are looking at changing that down to 6 months, but then the reasoning for getting rid of you can be pretty wishy-washy or unsubstantiated, I guess is probably more of an international term. Could be anything at all. You've you coughed too many times during a meeting, so you're out the door, sort of thing. So like your job could be gone tomorrow.
Reason. Do you think then, like, so I've been having this kind of tension of, if this tooling, right? Now, hold on. If off-the-shelf tools slowly get replaced with things that are more personalized to an organization, right? And it might not be the whole thing. It might be that, I think tools potentially maybe they become more just API layers rather than they become interfaces and things, or some kind of building block system. So then the business ends up having this, these suites of applications that are tailored to them, which is how, the 90s typically was, right? People would build these, not the 90s, 2010s. God, we're old. And they became unmanageable because the engineering costs and the server costs and everything were crazy, which is why we moved to the cloud, why we moved to SaaS, because $10 a month per user was seen as a better option. Now we're looping back around again, because now $10 a month, 100 people is $1,000 a month, and you can pay Claude $20 and get it to build you the interface, right? Or something like that, or clone the tool completely. But if you're I just wonder if you're the developer that works in the company, are you incentivized to contribute towards that internal IP? Or is there a scenario where you would hire a developer plus an agent as like a package deal?
Yeah. I think that to incentivize an employee to do it is a culture change. So currently we've got companies have no what is they honor to their employees.
I was thinking morals in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no need to. What is the word I'm looking for? No, my mind's gone completely blank. It's they don't want to rely on a single developer. They could get rid of you tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
like single point of failure.
yeah, like why would I make it easier for them to dismiss me and bring someone else in that could just use software to run my business? But that change in culture is getting away from sort of having your developers log in how many hours that they should be working. You know, are they logging 8 hours a day, and make sure they're doing 8 hours a day.
Daily stand-ups.
Changing it over to more of a results-based scenario where it doesn't really matter what hours they do as long as they're getting the job done and it's making the business money and it's pushing the business forward. Then great, right? Because we're seeing that increase in productivity. I think it would be a bad culture to go, oh, we've just improved productivity by 200%, so your output should be 200%. I think that's not quite where it should lie. It should be your output should maybe be like 125%, but the quality of the output is higher than what it was before, because before you were racing against the clock because you had to manually do everything, and checks and balances were always the last thing that got done. Whereas it's the main, with AI writing these things, it's the main bit of input. And you still need the developers, because having 30 years of experience doing this sort of thing is not going to be suddenly replaced in the next sort of 12 months by AI. We've still got to look over it. We've still got to understand what it's doing and make sure it's doing the right thing. You can't just blindly trust what's being made right now.
But you need one or two, not 10.
Yeah.
You know?
And
then if you're going into a role, see, this is where I do like that, I coined this term halos, human agent lead operator, needs a better wording, but the concept being that you're like one person and then you have a team of agents or tools that you're orchestrating and commanding. And if you're inside of a business and you want, you look at how a business operates and you're like, oh, they're like, we want to streamline this, we want to use these different tools, we want to use the APIs, these tools to make a more unified experience. That has to be like a project for someone to go and do it, right? So that has to be then allocated time and budget. But if you rock in as an employee or a contractor, it doesn't really matter like how you engage, I think, to a degree. But like you're now, or I think the conversation's potentially going to shift to, conventionally a developer hands over their knowledge to the other company through code. But potentially now your knowledge is going into the agent's doing the coding. So realistically, are we that far away from the scenario where you just send your agent to work? And then because I think there is a massive, a very soon blow up that will happen, in that everyone's adopting AI in some capacity whatsoever. At some point, businesses will, like you've raised, will find a point that they go, look, we're spending $1 million a year, maybe not even $1 million. We're spending 20 grand a year on these SaaS products, of which we only use, we do an audit, we only use 20% of this, 20% of that, 20% of that. Johnny down the road said that he can, write some workflows to automate this process. Cool. Johnny does that, automates it. I don't see an employee doing that, right? So, but then if employees live in the world where that's been done, their value just keeps getting more lesser and lesser, because you're going to have people who come in and go like, oh, I can automate all that. Or they then come in and join and they go, well, I'm going to do this thing and my agent's going to finish it off for the next 8 hours, But then who pays for the agent whilst it's running? Is that you as an employee? Is like the amount of people, this just turned into another rant episode, the amount of people who will refuse to pay $20 a month for Claude or ChatGPT from their own pocket because they think their company should pay for it. But absolutely, I find it mental.
Yeah, stifling their own progress, but
or their own laziness.
Yeah,
like you just get this thing to do it for you. You haven't got to worry about it.
Yeah, and like I think the big sort of shift is that we're going to see in our industry is that right now we earn big money for writing software, right? For actually doing the coding side of it. And that's going to change. And that's where their mindset's got to change, that those people that can just write the code, they're not going to earn the salaries that they're earning now. They've got to shift and be more open and adopt these AI tools, because it's the people that can orchestrate those AI agents and things. That's where the money's going to be. And I think that the manual developer is going to be required less and less, and then the day rates and the salaries and all that sort of stuff are going to like crash. After COVID and all that sort of stuff, I know definitely in the UK we saw a race to the bottom for things like day rates and salaries, and it's just going to be perpetuated more by AI, apart from those that can actually orchestrate it. So I know I've got a client meeting coming up where they want to find out more about the AI way of writing code and how that works, because they see it as a cost saving. And they've got some. No, they don't. But they've got. Okay. They're reasonably technical. They've got someone who is pretty technical. So they want to go, well, what's like the low hanging fruit that this guy could pick up with AI, rather than as paying like a crazy day rate for somebody to come in and code those sort of things. So I think that shift is happening already.
But they're a great example though, in the respect that they don't have the already outlay of a member of staff month by month though, right? So they're not there's not an automatic normality, right? Monday we need to give Jimmy some work. Tuesday we have to give him some work. Like they're bringing someone in when they need, or they can justify spending on some features, even if it's at a premium. And if that goes away.
Yeah, and this company is obviously quite forward thinking. They've got some requirements for a new feature set, which again would reduce the amount of hours they need from people developing code, not with or without AI. Although their expectations need to be sort of tempered down a little bit, because what they want to do, I don't think, is particularly straightforward or viable. So they're still seeing this stuff as being like magic, and it could do anything that we need. Yeah. But there are still limitations there. You are limited by what is actual possible with other platforms, cloud providers, and that sort of thing. We can't quite try time travel yet with AI, but maybe we'll get there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, interesting. But maybe that's how it starts. Maybe it's the departments without developers and without engineers, where they need to get something done, and then they're going to go out to the market to find out anyway, right?
Yeah.
And now, instead of it being 3 companies that are pricing in a certain way, there's going to be a 4th company that's a 5th of the price, or the 5th of the speed, or both. And they'll be like, oh, what's these people doing this different? And when it then delivers and it's good, then it resets that kind of that benchmark of pricing, right?
Yeah, I think that the technical people that are going to come in and use the AI tools, that is quintessentially the vibe code inside of it, right? And then they'll still need people like us right now to look and view that code that's been written by the vibe coders to ensure that it is doing what they think it's doing. It's not something that they're just going to be able to sort of do and go, yeah, right, that's great. Let's stick that out on production. And it's like, hold on, let's get someone who actually knows what they're looking at to look over it first.
But then your input is 1 hour, not 10 hours, right?
Yes.
Like, because you're not having to do it, it becomes
Yeah. And then it's yet again, it's another one of those like hard discussions with a company of how much you're going to charge me for that 1 hour. Yeah. I know that I had a client come and unfortunately sit with me while I was doing some artwork for them, and I was doing some branding, changing their logo, and they didn't like what I'd made, and they sat down and go, right, let's just go through it, and I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. And we only spent 30 minutes like tweaking the logo while they were there, and they said, right, if you've done that in 30 minutes, why are you charging me so much? And like, because you're not paying for the 30 minutes, you're paying for the 20 years of experience and knowledge that enabled me to do that in 30 minutes. And they weren't quite accepting of that. And I guess it's going to be even harder when you go, well, AI kind of wrote it. I just made sure that it was right. How are you going to justify that?
Yeah,
that high hourly rate?
Maybe it's down to just that it just drives that more outcome-based pricing, right? Or time to outcome being, if you can deliver something in a week that takes 6 months, there's an opportunity cost that's being saved there because, you'll get into the problem sooner. But it's I guess that stuff from an external perspective makes sense. I think if you're looking at internal tooling, then and there are massive opportunity of people the companies that either spend too much on their SaaS platforms or just don't use anywhere near their features. And if you can make a tool that's just that one specific feature, then you can argue like I'm coming more and more around. So I think companies need to hire like like you'd have like a customer help desk. Remember in uni and we had them. We were in the
open area thing.
Yeah.
Look like it's not a computer lab, but it was loads of desks with computers on, and they had the help desk in the corner,
like a co-working space, right? Basically, or whatever it was.
We don't want to make us sound old, but like people who come up with the floppy disks and say, "I've lost my dissertation."
Zip
Can you get it back?
Zip disk. Remember the zip disk drives. But yeah, and there and there would be access stuff or whatever, but you would get you're getting paid for being like customer support basically, right? And it's one of them ones where you're like, but that was probably there were people who would come in, try and do some work, get stuck, and then you unstuck them in 2 minutes, right? Versus they then lose a day or two. I wonder if businesses that comes back, but not from a perspective of customer support, because there's obviously cloud platforms and stuff that do that now, but from like, I've got this problem, I need to build, I'm trying to get this out of this system, and they come around and either show you like an AI prompt, or they go, cool, let me just wrap something up, and there's some platform that enables them to write a prompt in and just like share a button, like a Microsoft's Copilot. They've got like an agent system built into it now, so I could build an agent and then share the agent with, Doris, and be like, look, Doris, anytime you want to, request the quarterly budget document now, just type into here, quarterly budget, please, and then say which dates you want, and it will just give you that in an Excel file. And I think that that potentially becomes the driver for this like internal software optimization, because the more and more people I train or I work with who are in enterprises, the more and more I'm concerned that they're not going to adapt to this new world, because there's just no desire until they have to until they have to do it, there's just no desire to want to, improve productivity. There's a want. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's a want. There's no desire to do it. There is a desire to want it, just not to action it.
Do you mean there's no desire from the team or no desire from the company?
Team definitely. Company. No, the company wants people to be more productive, right? That's how they get higher revenue per employee and all that stuff. But then I think it's a complete flywheel. I don't know how you get out of it, because you get someone who's really good. They embrace the technology. They do that. They find something. They build a tool. I was training one company, and one of the examples is where they have to build like an agent that is it's like a risk agent. So basically, MIT have a spreadsheet. I think it's MIT risk database or something, and it's a open source spreadsheet of all the potential risks of an AI project. If you add AI to something, it's in there. So this agent is, you basically grab that spreadsheet, drop it into Copilot agent, and then what you can do in Copilot, which actually is one of the very few good features of Copilot, is you can be chatting to Copilot about a project you're working on, and then you can just at one of the agents and say, or at the risk agent and say, like, do a review now of this project plan. And it'll have access to the context window, and then it goes off, grabs that, and goes to the agent, comes back and goes, you spoke about capturing passport details and driving licenses and maiden names. And there's, and it'll kind of identify risks based on, this database. And it's very cool. And, went through this as an example. And then one of the trainees, attendees, did it for something else, right? Another document source. She was like, I'm going to share this with my team because this is going to save us about 2 hours each week. And you're just like, wow, like that's cool. And that is that kind of like, to me, that's like an internal tool, right? So then you end up just having lots of these types of agents or these workflows using like the workflow feature or Power Automate or something like that in the Microsoft world. And, but the second it gets beyond, just a natural language sentence, people just hit a wall. Like, there is, and I think it's that, it's either the developer mindset or engineering mindset is, the years of pain and struggling at 2 a.m. to try and get something working. You accept that it won't work the first time. So when you struggle, you're like, oh, I'll just kind of adapt this and whatever. But like, those who sit outside of that skill set and capability, they're used to a software tool doing the thing it's meant to do. You might do it badly, but they're still like, I go into Excel, I put some values in, great. The other cell gives me the result, and it works every time. If they want to then learn how to do pivot tables or to do something else, they go on a course or they do a training thing to learn that capability. There's no one wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I need a pivot table to this, not knowing what that is. And I think equally, they wake up in the morning and go, I wish I could use graphs in this in a different way. I just think they do nothing. They just do it manually. It's only because of then the company or something, or very few will then be like, oh, I'm going to go and do an advanced Excel course. They're not doing a thing just to solve that task. ChatGPT comes along and now they ask ChatGPT, how do I do this? And it tells it and goes, oh, you need pivot tables, and then they create the thing, but they still lack that interim step of the training or the learning to understand that pivot table logic, which though that's been replaced by AI, the mindset to know that was the way to do that is the bit.
You've got to know the words to use, right, to get the right output, because like people like ourselves that are more technical, you can ask AI to do something with a few lines, then when it does it and it does it wrong, you go, oh, you've done it wrong, but it's this particular feature that you've done in this certain way needs to work in this other way, and you've used the wrong variable type or whatever, you've used a float and it needs to be a long or something like that, whereas a non-technical person wouldn't know how to fix that, just sort of
Or
skipping
to even
back to
ask
zip
it,
disks
you
that
know?
we had these.
We did.
Yeah, very first USB keys that 128 megs.
I was going to say, how big is the storage?
Yeah.
It's a but I think in that example that you just said, but I didn't think that's even the problem. I think it's that people just don't even know to ask. They, you know what I mean? Like it's that I don't know how you increase the correlation between the problem, the tooling, the ability to create the, like most people, like if you are using ChatGPT or something, and you want to let's think, for example, like say you're using some system and like booking a holiday at work is really convoluted for whatever reason. You're like, oh, like I wonder if I could automate this. People don't, right? The way to have the mental understanding to think, how could I automate this, is the first step. Then the second step is, technically, is this possible? Then the third step is then trying to do it. But then the fourth step is when it doesn't do it right, not giving up and actually either communicating with the LM or whatever, to be like, you're not getting this. Like, what don't you know? And using and basically kind of treating it like a kid, in the respect of like you're trying to educate it on understanding the problem set that you're trying to solve. And again, you might end up spending 2 or 3 times longer than intentional to solve that problem, right? Maybe even take longer than all the times you'd ever do that task. But when the next task comes along, I think you are rewiring your brain to understand it a bit better. There's a, forget the study, but there's a study that kids in the 90s, i.e. us, because we discovered video games were our youth compared to other previous generations, and but because in video games you couldn't respawn. If you died, you died, right? And then you went back
and you have to go back
the
and
beginning,
do it all again. Yeah,
and you'd have to go back and do it all again. Which isn't the case now, right? You die in Fortnite, you spawn back into a new game, like in 2 minutes, if that. That apparently has wired our brains to continuously chase like the solution. And we understand we have to evaluate all the different options, because if we die, we're going to die. Now, does that make us more cautious? Maybe, but I think there's something to, like, it's a real big, I think, yes, building tools internally is an ambition, and is the way it should be. But I do wonder if it's much harder on the people side of things.
Yeah. I guess no matter what topic we approach with these sort of things, we're always going to have a bias, right? Whether it's, we should be doing more internal tooling or we should be adopting more AI, each generation is going to have a different bias, and each, I say category of people, it's not the right word, but like technical people, non-technical people, completely
There's
illiterate
loads of it:
people,
background, education, social class,
yeah.
religious beliefs.
That was
like,
kind of what
I
was trying to get to. Is it?
Yeah.
They're going to have different views on how you solve those problems, and some of them are going to have no views on solving them. I think a toxic trait of people like ourselves is that we spend all day solutionizing and providing solutions to problems for everything, right? When I speak to some developers, they're like, "Oh, what industry do you work in?" I work in any industry. I can pick up any sort of
terminologies.
Any scope. It doesn't really matter. We're
Domain
doing
expertise.
something. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, I could pick up any domain and learn it. Maybe not to a real depth, but to deep enough that I can get a good grasp of how to do that. And not everybody does that, or not everybody thinks they can do that. But then as we've seen over the last 3 weeks, I applied that to the real world and renovated a bathroom, which I thought should have taken 3 days and took me a week and a half, and then did the same with the kitchen. Yeah, it's there. And I've spoken to a lot of people who gone, because I've been complaining that it's taken me so long, and I find it frustrating where there was stuff I couldn't fix, and it took me ages to get to it. And they're like, well, you got further than I would, and I wouldn't have been able to do that. These people were telling me, I'm like, I'm sure you could if you just applied yourself. You just don't want to apply yourself to it or be open up to learning, because I've learned loads of stuff over the last few weeks doing that.
Yeah.
But
do not do a kitchen and do not do a bathroom.
No, number one, is I am never doing it again. I'll fit a toilet and I'll fit a basin, but I'm never fitting a bath again, and I'm never fitting kitchen cupboards. It's just not happening. But a lot of people wouldn't have even had the audacity, I think is the correct word, to even attempt it. They would have got in an expert to do it. But maybe that also comes back to the that adage you were saying about playing computer games when we were younger, and you got to a difficult part and you just kept going and going and going because you didn't want to have it defeat you. And I didn't want that bathroom, and I didn't want the kitchen to defeat me. So.
Completely. And I think, but I think that's it. And I think that's where, but I think that loops back around of like, if you have, I know that obviously the topic was more like probably more around technical tooling and stuff, but how do you then, if companies have to have this tooling personalized to them or more personalized to them, and someone has to build it, the people who should be building it are the ones who are in the company, right? Because they're the ones using it. Like bringing someone in, even if they're 10th of the price and that because they're 10th of the speed, they still don't understand the domain necessarily. So yes, they understand the domain of technology and they can build it quicker. But if Sally in marketing is trying to build could build a marketing tool for the pet charity that she works for, she's going to know what she needs. And it's 2 buttons, like it's not 87 buttons that you'd get in like a, Trello or a Monday.com or whatever it is for, running the projects. It's like, she's like,
these projects aren't going to be over-engineered. The amount of projects I've worked on and they're over-engineered because they're trying to be everything to every person.
Yeah.
Those sort of days are probably, numbered with building that sort of software, because it's a lot simpler. But it also brings you back around then into the world of you should be replacing your software every 2 years anyway, software that you've written in-house, to make sure that it's up to date and that it's using the best technology that it can do. Well, that's now physically possible to do that in a real world scenario, not just sort of ivory tower architects and software developers going, well, if you haven't rewritten it in the last 2 years, then it's not maintainable.
Yeah, to be fair, I think that's a bit of self-preservation as well, right?
Yeah.
How many financial companies run on Excel? With all the technology and all the microservices in the world, and there's an Excel document just holding everything together somewhere.
How many companies out there still run stuff on mainframes?
Yeah.
And COBOL and things like that. Yeah. Now, I did have a discussion with somebody who said that because they worked in some of the more legacy languages like Pascal and stuff like that, and they said, well, it couldn't do my job, and they're like, well, is it documented? Like, oh yeah, it's documented for the source code. It could be automated then because the AI can read that. It's going to infiltrate everywhere.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a good shout. That even if the software stack aside, if you can rebuild the software every 6 months based on what is the need of the users and whatever, like I created like a workflow for this podcast for the posting of the content, obviously to social media and all this stuff. And one aspect that's used is Buffer, which is like a social media scheduling tool, and it has all these features. Like it's not too expensive; it's like $20 a month or something. It's not a price prohibiting thing. But it's just like I go in there and I'm like, I literally need like 2 features of this product, and the API luckily gives me the ability to interact with it, without the one feature I want the UI for, which is all the OAuth stuff with the accounts. And then the other feature is, the scheduling, right? And that I can use the API for, and it runs pretty smoothly, right? But to do them two features, should I be paying, regardless if it's cheap or not, should I be paying $20 a month for them two features? Considering the product has another 97 features within it. Or is there, because that was a good example, because I was like, maybe I'll just do the OAuth stuff myself. But actually, for TikTok, you can't just post to the API. You have to set up an app. You have to be verified, even if you're the only one using it. So then you're like, then now it's not worth the hassle, right? But if someone created a buffer type tool, which is just APIs, it's literally like, this is how you auth your accounts. Once you've got your accounts auth, then literally just schedule it. Because once you start looking at these products for what they are, like Buffer, we obviously post videos. You can't upload the video to Buffer. You have to reference it from a public URL for it to post. So they're not even holding the assets. It's purely an orchestration layer to get content on a schedule onto social media. So you look at that and you go like, this is why all the SaaS companies market prices are down like, 50, 60, 70, 80% in the last week or two, because they're seeing now AI is potentially going to disrupt their market, because what do why do you need it? I know many companies who use Figma, and they'll have 20 licenses because the designers want to use Figma, but then the developers are looking to use, they just need to go and click in it to see a design. They're not using it, they're just viewing it. And they released their MCP server so developers could use code and text to be able to interact, and they're like, we don't need as many licenses now.
Yeah, well, I was using Auth0 in one of my mobile apps, and I removed Auth0 because it gets expensive, and the only reason that the only reason I was using them is that I didn't want to have to maintain all of the different code modules for every auth provider out there. Whereas now you go into Claude Code and go, all right, let's set up OAuth authentication. Yeah, do it with Google, do it with Microsoft. Okay, right, do it with Facebook, do it with whatever. And it goes, yeah, sure. And it goes and does them. And then as soon as it's updated, you'd go, it's changed. This needs to be updated. Here's the documentation. This is what they've changed. Go do that. That I don't need all of the maintained sign-on credentials and all of that sort of stuff that I got with Auth0 anymore. So there was a massive sort of,
but you potentially would still use Auth0, because the problem with Auth0 is it's free for like 50,000 users. But if you want like one extra, a certain type of feature, like an extra app authentication type or like two-factor, it goes to paid. And then as soon as it goes to paid, the same package, let's say, is then $2,000 a month. Like if you want to make it, like, I think the cheapest is like $50 a month, but then you only get like 200 users or something. So if you have like a free app, whatever, it's just not doable. If the pricing though was free, and then when you started using the more advanced features, because you're only using like a few of them, and then the price switched to like $1, you probably would use the platform, right?
Yeah, I think like if you could have all of the auth providers on the free account, and then as you say, you just pay for the advanced stuff, then great. But then does their model work? Because how many of their users actually use the more advanced features in there?
But that's what I'm saying. They don't, right? Yeah. This is the whole thing. The enterprises will, but even if you're using the free account, so like for example, Buffer's a good one because they have all these features and they price their product $6 per account, per channel. So if you're posting to TikTok, Instagram, Reels, and YouTube Shorts, you're going to pay $18, right? So if you're posting to 10 accounts, you're paying $60. You have access to the same level of features regardless of how many of them accounts you have. They have some like there is more there's like more fancy account levels if you want some. I think they bought some other companies that help with the social media management side, but holistically, one account $6, 10 accounts $60, feature set identical across the board. But what if you're like, if you want, I've got another project where I need like 20 accounts, but I only need 2 features. So I have to pay $120 a month to use these two features because their monetization model is based on accounts. So you kind of look at that and go, okay, well, then does the monetization model have to change? Or because it's then going to cost $120, do I have to then build it, like you said, like how you replaced Auth0? Or do I find another product that then goes, actually, we bill by feature, not by account. And then it's unlimited channels and it's based on, feature parity rather than things. But at least the creation of, building stuff with AI and building quicker, I think you end up then having whereas now maybe we've got 1 million social media management tools, maybe you end up with 2 million social media management tools, but one of them is the thing you exactly want. And the fact you're then going to pay $20 a month for it, you're fine with, because it would actually, even with AI, it's still, to manage it and to have the mind space and the context of it all is going to cost you more than $20 a month worth of effort.
But then if you're using minimal features,
if you literally just want one thing,
why would you just build it as an internal thing, right?
Completely. Yeah. Or you're building a whole internal process and just that one bit, right? It then becomes, either cost or effort or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, because I think the example you gave was TikTok. That's like a real edge case, right? Most platforms don't work in that way, where you've got to have a verified account and all of that sort of stuff. Then maybe it would force their hand to change stuff. Very, very unlikely, but especially on TikTok's level with how big they are. But other platforms might get forced to make integration better.
Yeah, and then you said, so then maybe it is the case that you find some service which is like, they've had the same problem, but they've decided to pivot into building an internal tool, which then becomes their product, because they go, you know what, maybe they're a content company and they manage 1,000 channels. So for them, it's going to cost them $6 a channel, 1,000, it's going to cost them $72,000 a year just for buffer. Right. And it's as simple as that. They might turn around and go, well, actually, for $70,000, we could build this tool for $20,000. Even if we just outsource it and get someone in, we're saving $50,000 a year. And if you take it like a 3-year kind of return, like that's $150,000 saving. But then they might turn and go, well, actually, other people might have this problem. And then they turn that into a product. But they go, okay, well, let's charge $1 per channel. Let's charge 50 cents to 20 cents, 10 cents. Or let's just charge, because actually the channel number doesn't really matter. Let's just charge a flat rate, $20, unlimited channels, maybe up to 100. Because the features are OAuth and scheduling. That's it. And I think the same will happen internally for staffing companies. People are going to look and go like, do I want to build a tool for this? Do I want to, build like a Power App workflow for this? Or do I want to, bring some company in to build a whole thing?
Yeah. So I think we've taken a detour from our normal it's doom and gloom for developers to we're still going to need developers.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like anything. I think it's a change, right? It's all roles. It's an adaptive, adaptation.
The subtopic for this week's episode is forgetting the words that we need to say.
Yes, yeah. Dictionary, along as we speak, would be great.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Call it there then.
I think so. I
Internal
think that was another episode for another week.
Indeed. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI Shift Podcast. Let's go.